I hired a nurse to care for my dad. 3 months later, she married him and turned him against me. For me, it started with a hip replacement and a 16-hour shift. I'm a surgical nurse. My entire life is about control, sterile fields, precise counts, managing complications. When you spend your day holding literal life and death in your hands, you get intense. You don't have a lot of patience for ambiguity. And my dad, Patrick, he was nothing but ambiguity. Ever since my mom died, he'd just deflated. The man who taught me to ride a bike, who could build a deck from scratch, was suddenly just this guy in a ratty armchair with a glass of whiskey. He wasn't just sad. He was mad about it. Mad at the world, mad at his body, and most of the time mad at me. Then came the hip surgery. Just a minor thing, really. A slip on the porch. But for a man his age, minor is a relative term. And for a man who drinks to numb the loneliness, recovery is a nightmare. I'd come home from a double at the hospital, my feet screaming, my brain fried from the fluorescent lights. And the first thing I'd hear was the clink of ice in a glass. Dad, you cannot mix alcohol with the blood thinners. You know that. It's not just me nagging, it's a serious risk. He'd just wave his hand, not even looking at me. Oh, pipe down, Lena, I'm fine. Your mother, God rest her soul, she knew how to relax. You're always on. And that was our routine. I'd try to be the nurse, because being the daughter wasn't working. I'd check his incision, I'd count his pills, I'd throw out the bottle I found under the sink. And every time I did, he'd look at me like I was the enemy, like I was the warden, not his kid. I was just so tired. I was terrified he'd fall or bleed out or just give up. I was failing. I was failing at my job, and I was failing him. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. I was running late, so late for my shift. I'd hidden the whiskey I really thought I had. I was halfway out the door when I heard this crash. Not a loud crash, but a heavy, sickening thud. I ran back to the living room and he was on the floor. He'd used his grabber tool to reach for a bottle on the top shelf of the bookcase. A bottle I didn't even know was there, and had toppled the whole thing over. He was fine, thank God. He hadn't landed on the new hip. But he was unembarrassed. He was furious and humiliated, and looking at me with this burning shame. I just wanted a drink, he muttered. And I just broke. I sat on the floor, in my scrubs, surrounded by his prized antique books, and I cried. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't be his nurse, his jailer, and his daughter. I was only 35, but I felt ancient. That night, I hired Clara Nolan. I found her through a high-end agency that specialized in difficult cases. The brochure, I kid you not, said she was good with stubborn patients. That was an understatement. She showed up the next afternoon. I was, of course, frantic. I'd just come off shift. I hadn't slept, and I was trying to give her the full medical handoff. Okay, so he's post-op 3 weeks. I was rattling off, holding my clipboard. He's on the anticoagulants. His compliance with the pain meds is poor. He's a fall risk, and you absolutely cannot let him drink. I mean it, he hides it. You have to be vigilant. Clara just stood there in my entryway, and the first thing I noticed was the silence she brought with her. I was all frantic, buzzing energy. She was still, calm. She had this soft, unassuming face and kind eyes, and she just nodded, listening patiently. She didn't even take notes. Thank you, Lena. I understand, she said, her voice smooth and low. Why don't you let me just go say hello? She walked right past my clipboard and into the living room. My dad was in his recliner, his throne of misery, as I called it. He had his arms crossed, his face set in that classic grumpy scowl he saved just for me. He was expecting another Lena, another nurse to boss him around. Clara didn't do any of that. She didn't look at his hip. She didn't ask about his pain level. She just stopped. She looked around the room, and her eyes landed on an old dusty photo on the mantelpiece. It was him, 20 years younger, holding a massive fish, grinning like an idiot. She knelt. She actually knelt down by the side of his chair, so she was looking up at him, not down. That's a 30-pound muskie, isn't it? She said, her voice full of genuine interest. Lake Winnebago? My dad's scowl just flickered. He uncrossed his arms. How'd you know that? My grandfather used to fish that lake, she said, smiling. He always said the muskies there were smarter than most fishermen. Looks like you were one of the smart ones. He looked at her. Really looked at her. Smarter than your grandfather, probably, he grunted. And Clara? She laughed. A real warm laugh. Oh, I don't doubt that for a second. And then the impossible happened. My dad chuckled. It was a rusty, creaky sound, like an old hinge. But it wasn't a grunt. It wasn't a snort. It was a laugh. A real one. The kind I hadn't heard in, God, maybe since before Mom died. I was just standing in the doorway, watching this woman I'd known for 30 seconds accomplish what I hadn't been able to in 3 years. I felt this whoosh, this wave of pure, unadulterated relief. It was so heavy it nearly buckled my knees. Thank God, I thought. Thank God someone else is here. Someone else can do this. He's safe. She's got him. But right behind it, right on its heels, was this other feeling. This cold, sharp, ugly little pang. Why her? Why couldn't I make him laugh like that? Why did she get the smiling fisherman when all I got was the grumpy patient? I'm his daughter. She's a stranger. It was jealousy. Plain and simple. It was this awful, childish feeling of being displaced. Of failing, I shook it off. Of course I did. I was a professional. I was just tired. This was good. This was the solution. I looked at Clara, now listening intently as my dad started telling some long, rambling story about the one that got away. She just nodded, her focus entirely on him. This was perfect. I could finally go to work and not spend the entire shift staring at my phone, waiting for the call that he'd fallen, that he was hurt, that I'd failed. I grabbed my scrubs for my next shift, my keys, my badge. I walked out the door, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel terrified. I just felt relieved. I told myself this was it. This was the answer. Now I could stop being his nurse, and maybe, just maybe, I could finally be his daughter again. What a fool I was. So, for the first couple of weeks, it was good. It was really good. I mean, can you imagine? I could finally just work. I'd be in the middle of a complicated procedure, and my phone wouldn't buzz in my pocket, making my heart jump into my throat. I'd get home and the house would be quiet. The dishes would be done. There'd be a container of food for me in the fridge, labeled in Clara's perfect, neat handwriting. She was a ghost. A really, really efficient ghost. At first, I'd call on my lunch break. Hey, Dad, how's the hip? You do your exercises? Yep. Clara's got it handled, he'd say, distracted. I could hear the baseball game in the background. Okay, well, I'll see you tonight. Love you. You too, kid. But then, things started to shift. It was slow. So slow, I barely noticed it. I'd call and he wouldn't pick up. I'd text. Nothing. I'd get home and he'd be asleep, which was weird for him. He was always a night owl. Oh, he was just tired, Clara would say, wiping down the counter. We had a big day. We went through some of his old army photos. I'd feel that little pang again. He never wanted to go through old photos with me. Then, the calls I did get through got shorter. Hey, Dad, how are you feeling? Fine, Lena, fine. Clara's here, I gotta go. Click. It started to feel off. Was I being replaced? I mean, that's what I wanted, right? I wanted someone to take the burden. But I didn't think it meant I'd be erased. The real gut punch came from Mrs. Petroff, our next-door neighbor. I was grabbing the mail and she was out watering her roses. Oh, Lena, honey, she called out. That new nurse of yours, Clara? She is just a saint. I forced a smile. Yeah, she's been a huge help. Your father just raves about her. I was chatting with him over the fence yesterday, and you know what he said? He said, it's so nice to have someone in the house who just listens. Clara actually talks to me about something besides my drinking. I just stood there. My keys suddenly felt really heavy in my hand. He said that? To a neighbor? That night I came home late. I was walking on eggshells, just wrecked from the day. I was halfway up the stairs when I heard them talking in the living room. I stopped. I know I shouldn't have listened, but I couldn't help it. It was Clara's voice, soft as velvet. You shouldn't feel ashamed of needing a drink, Patrick, she was saying. It sounds like you have pain no one is listening to. You deserve someone who sees the man, not just the diagnosis. My blood went ice cold. Not just the diagnosis? That was my word. I'd used it just last week. Dad, the diagnosis is clear. You can't mix. She was using my own words against me. She was taking my professional medical concern and twisting it into an accusation, making me sound cold, making me sound like I only saw him as a chart. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I cornered him in the kitchen. Clara was out running errands. Dad, I said, trying to keep my voice even. Are you okay? Are we okay? He wouldn't look at me. He just stared into his coffee mug. I'm fine, Lena. I heard what Clara said last night about me, about the diagnosis. He finally looked up, and his eyes were hard. So what, you do only see the diagnosis? You've been treating me like a broken-down piece of equipment for 3 years. That is not true, I said, my voice rising. I'm trying to keep you safe. That's what you do when you love someone. No, he snapped, slamming his mug down. That's what you do when you want to control someone. You're always criticizing me. She gives me a little peace. She actually listens. I had nothing. No reply. He had chosen her. This stranger, he'd chosen her and twisted my love into control. I went to take a shower just to get away. I felt sick. When I came back down, he was gone. Off to the backyard to get some air. I went to grab the garbage, and that's when I saw it. In the kitchen trash can, right on top of some coffee grounds. His AA tokens. He had a 1-year chip, a 3-year chip. He even had the 5-year chip my mom had given him, the one he always kept in his pocket. He said it was his lucky charm. They were all just tossed in the trash. Like they were nothing. I felt the floor drop out from under me. No. He'd been sober for so long. He wouldn't just throw them away. I told myself it was the hip, the stress of the surgery, the fight we just had. He was angry. He was in pain. And he was lashing out. That's what this was. That's what I told myself. I tried to breathe. Okay, Lena, I whispered. It's just the drinking. He's relapsed. It's bad, but it's not something else. It's just the alcohol. I was a nurse. I knew how to handle this. This was my territory. And then I saw it, sitting on the kitchen counter next to the coffee maker. A brand new, unopened bottle of expensive Irish whiskey. The cap was slightly ajar, like a silent invitation. And I just stared at it. Where did that come from? He couldn't drive. I didn't buy it, did she? No, I must have missed it. He must have had it delivered. That was it. He was just drinking again. But a terrible, cold question hung in the air. Why wasn't I mad at my dad? Why was I suddenly horribly afraid of his nurse? So for the next few weeks, I tried to just play it cool. I told myself, okay, he's drinking. He's depressed. He's in pain from the hip. He's pushing you away because he's ashamed. And Clara is just caught in the middle. She's just trying to manage him. I was lying to myself, of course. I'm a nurse. I know how to spot a pattern. But this was my dad. I didn't want to see the pattern. I tried to be nice. I'd come home and Clara would be there cooking. The house smelled like baking bread or roast chicken. It smelled like Mom used to make it smell. And I'd just feel this knot in my stomach. Smells great, Clara, I'd say. Oh, thank you, Lena. Your father was just telling me you love pot roast. I hope this is okay. See? How do you fight with that? How do you fight with nice? But nice was starting to feel like a weapon. I came home one evening, earlier than usual. Clara was in the kitchen, and my dad was at the table, actually reading the newspaper, not just staring at the TV. And I saw it on his wrist. It was a watch. A watch. A beautiful, heavy, stainless steel watch with a dark blue face. It looked expensive. Really expensive. This wasn't some Timex from the drugstore. My dad hadn't worn a watch in 10 years. My mom bought him one for his 50th, and he'd never taken it off. When she died, he put it in his sock drawer and never looked at it again. Dad, that's a new watch, I said, trying to sound casual. He looked up, and he actually beamed, like a little kid. It is, isn't she a beauty? I looked at Clara, who was busily wiping down a spotless counter. Where'd you get it? I asked. Clara laughed, that soft, airy little laugh of hers. Oh, just a little gesture. A small thank you for all his kindness. You know how he is, Lena. He's just so generous with his stories, and he's terrible at waiting for special occasions. My brain just stalled. Wait, a thank you? A gesture. A nurse, an agency nurse, doesn't buy her patient a watch that looks like it costs $1,000. Where did she get that kind of money? Or did he buy it? Was she pretending she gave it to him? I just couldn't make the pieces fit. It's really nice, Dad. It's the nicest thing anyone's done for me in a long time, he said, and he looked right at Clara. Ouch. That one was aimed right at me. And it hit. But the watch? That was just the appetizer. The main course came about a week later. It was exactly 1 month since she'd started. I was paying bills at my apartment, and I noticed a letter from my dad's bank. It was weird. It was addressed to me, but it was just a notification of changes to account access. My heart started doing that fast, shallow thump, thump, thump. I went over to the house. Clara was nowhere to be seen. My dad was on the porch. Hey, Dad, I got a weird letter from your bank. Oh, yeah, that. About time they sent it, he said, turning a page in his book. About time. Dad, what is it? It says something about new account signatories. He sighed like I was the one being annoying. I just simplified things, Lena, that's all. Simplified? How? I updated my documents. You know, for simplicity, in case anything happens. I just stared at him. What documents, Dad? Your will? No, he said, waving his hand dismissively. Just, the day-to-day stuff. Clara's a nurse. She knows about this stuff. She said it was just easier. Dad, what did you sign? He finally put the book down, and I saw the look again, that hard, resentful look. I made Clara my power of attorney, for my health and for the finances, just temporary, just while I'm sorting things out. I think I actually stopped breathing. Power of attorney. I'm a nurse. I know exactly what that means. It's not helping with the bills. It's not simplifying. It's the keys to the kingdom. It means she can sign his checks, access his accounts, sell his property, make medical decisions. It means she could check him into a home and I couldn't do a damn thing to stop her. No, I said. My voice was shaking. No, you absolutely did not. I did. It's my money. It's my life. Dad, she is a stranger. You've known her for 1 month. You don't give a stranger that kind of power? That's insane. And then he just exploded. It was like all the resentment, all the anger he'd been swallowing for 3 years. It all came boiling up. Insane? You want to talk about insane? How about you? You care more about my money than you do about me. That is not true. I care about you. She is using you. She's helping me, he roared, getting to his feet. She listens. You control. You've been trying to control me since your mother died. You treat me like a child, Lena. Well, I am not your child, and I am not your patient. I flinched. Like he'd slapped me. She put those words in your mouth, I whispered. That's her talking. Get out, he said. His voice was dead calm now, colder than the ice in his whiskey glass. You only see me as a bank account to protect. She sees me as a man. Just go. I left. I was crying so hard I could barely see the sidewalk. I had failed. I had pushed him and judged him, and he was right. I had been controlling him, but I was just trying to help, wasn't I? I sat in my car for hours, just numb. I had lost him. In 1 month, that woman had taken my father from me. My phone buzzed. I wiped my eyes, thinking it was him. Maybe he was sorry. Maybe he'd realized it was a text. From Clara. My blood ran cold all over again. It read, "Please don't come tonight, Lena. He's terribly upset. The nurse in you should know that too much stress isn't good for his blood pressure." She was using my job against me. She was using my care as a weapon to lock me out. And as I stared at that message, I finally understood. This wasn't about his drinking. It wasn't about his hip. It wasn't about his loneliness. This was a game, and she was winning. So I did. I stayed away. That text. It's not good for his blood pressure. She used my own job, my own care as a shield. And the worst part? It worked for a day. Then I called. Straight to voicemail. I called the next day. Voicemail. I texted, "Dad, please just tell me you're okay." Nothing. I gave him a week. I told myself, he's stubborn. He's angry. He'll cool off. But a week? My dad, he could hold a grudge, but he wasn't cruel. This felt wrong. I'd call the house line and Clara would pick up. She was always so sweet, so apologetic. "Oh, Lena, hi. He's just resting now. He had a bit of a rough night." Or, "He's just not quite ready to talk, honey. You know how he gets. He just needs a little more time." Weeks. The weeks started to blur. I was not okay. I was a mess at work. I'd be handing a surgeon a scalpel, and my hands would be shaking. I'd be scrubbing out, and my mind would just be racing. What is happening in my house? Why won't he call me? Is he sick? I was breaking down. I was crying in the supply closet. I was barely sleeping. It had been, almost 2 months. 2 months of being slowly, politely, and completely frozen out of my own father's life. I finally hit my limit. One of my colleagues, a decent woman, pulled me aside in the break room. "Lena," she said, "you look like hell. Take a few days off. Go fix whatever this is." She was right. I couldn't fix anything from the hospital. I took 3 days of personal leave. I was done with texts. I was done with phone calls. I was going to go over there, and I was not leaving until I spoke to my dad. I drove over on a Tuesday morning. I felt sick but strong, like I was finally doing something. I walked right up the pathway, the same one I've walked my whole life. I had my house key in my hand. I put my key in the lock. It didn't turn. What? I jiggled it. Nothing. It was solid. I pulled it out, looked at it. This key had opened this door for 20 years. I tried again. It wouldn't budge. They changed the locks. I just stood there on the welcome mat, feeling so stupid. I'm locked out. I'm locked out of my home. I rang the doorbell. I rang it again. I started banging on the door, my voice rising. "Clara, I know you're in there. Open this door! Dad! Dad, it's me!" No one came. But I swear, I saw the little curtain in the front window twitch. I was about to call the police. And then I saw it, right next to the door, where our old Peeling the Walshes plaque used to be. It was gone. And in its place, a brand new shiny brass nameplate. It said, "Patrick and Clara Walsh." My stomach I thought I was going to be sick, right there on the azaleas. Walsh? Clara? Walsh? My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold my phone. I fumbled with it, opened up Facebook. I don't even use Facebook. I looked up Clara Nolan. Her profile was private. But our neighbor, Mrs. Petrov, she was not private, and there it was. Her main page, posted 3 days ago. A picture. Mrs. Petrov, my dad, and Clara, on the front lawn. My dad was in his best suit. And Clara was in a simple white dress, holding a bouquet of white roses. The caption read, "Such a beautiful surprise wedding. So happy for my wonderful neighbors, Patrick and his new bride, Clara Walsh." His bride. It had been 3 months. 3 months to the day since I hired her. I lost it. I started screaming. Dad, get out here. You can't do this." The door finally opened. But it wasn't my dad. It was Clara. She wasn't smiling. She didn't look sweet. She just looked calm and tired, like I was the one making a scene. She stood behind the screen door, not opening it. "Lena, you are upsetting him," she said, her voice low and firm. "Where is he, Clara?" I was crying now, just wrecked. You married him? He was lonely, Lena, and he's happy, she said, like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. You should be happy for him. She started to close the main door. I want to see him, I yelled, grabbing the screen door handle, and her whole face just hardened. The nice nurse was gone. This was someone else. Her eyes were like chips of ice. He doesn't want to see you, she said, her voice like steel. You missed the wedding. He's my husband now. You need to leave. She was pushing the door closed, but I had my foot in it. I was trying to look past her, into the living room, trying to see him, to get a glimpse of him. Dad, I screamed. Dad, please. And just before the door slammed shut, I saw the wall. The big wall over the fireplace. It was empty. My whole life that wall had one thing on it. A huge, beautiful oil painting of my mother. My dad had it commissioned for their 25th anniversary. It was that living room. It was gone, in its place. Hanging on a brand new shiny nail was a big gold-framed wedding photo of Patrick and Clara. She hadn't just moved in. She hadn't just married him. She was erasing us. The door clicked shut. I heard the deadbolt turn, and I was left on the porch, staring at a picture of a stranger who had just stolen my entire life. I was not just sad. I was furious, being locked out, seeing that nameplate, seeing my mother's portrait just gone. Something inside me just snapped. The sad, worried daughter was gone. The surgical nurse was here, the one who cuts, the one who fixes. I was on the warpath, but I was locked out. Legally. She was his wife. I couldn't just call the cops and say I don't like her. I needed him. I couldn't call his cell. She screened every call. I couldn't call the house. She'd just hang up. So I went old school. My dad had one old friend left from the army, Sal. They met every Thursday for breakfast at the VFW, come rain or shine. I knew Clara wouldn't be able to stop that. It was too ingrained. I tracked down Sal's number. Sal, it's Lena. Lena Walsh. Lena, kid. How are ya? Haven't seen you around the house in a dog's age. My throat got tight. I know, Sal, I know. Listen, I need a favor. A big one. I need to see my dad. Alone. Sal was quiet for a beat. He was old, but he wasn't stupid. That new wife of his, he finally said, his voice low. She's a piece of work, ain't she? Keeps him on a short leash. Sal, please. Tell him. Tell him I'll be at the Cup and Saucer Diner tomorrow at 9. Tell him it's about Mom. Tell him I found something of hers. Just get him there. Please. I'll get him there, kid. The next morning, I think I drank 6 cups of coffee before 8 a.m. I was vibrating. The Cup and Saucer was a total greasy spoon over on 53rd. We used to go there after my Little League games. He wouldn't be able to resist the memory. I was sitting in a cracked vinyl booth, staring at the door. 9 bar 9:05, 9:10. At 9:15, the door opened. It was him. But it wasn't my dad, even sick, even drunk. He was a presence. He was loud. He was grumpy. He filled a room. This man who shuffled in, he was frail. His hands were shaking. Not just the little tremors he got. This was a shake. He looked foggy, confused. His eyes were dull. Dad? I said, standing up. He looked around, his eyes skimming right past me. Lena, I'm right here, I said, grabbing his arm. He felt thin. Oh, hi, kid, he mumbled, letting me guide him into the booth. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days. Dad, what's going on? I said, my voice softer now. The anger was just gone. Now I was just scared. Are you drinking this much? Is it that bad? He looked down at the table. I don't know, Lena. I'm so sleepy. All the time. Sleepy? Or hungover? I asked, maybe a little too sharp. No, just tired. He rubbed his temples. Clara, she's good. She's real good. She gives me these vitamins. For my energy. But what, Dad? They make me so sleepy. Vitamins? What kind of vitamins make you sleepy? I'm a nurse. That's not a thing. B12 gives you energy. D is for bones. Nothing makes you foggy. Dad, what are they? What do they look like? I don't know. Little blue pills, he mumbled, his eyes starting to droop, right there in the diner. She just brings them with my coffee. I just stared at him. Blue pills? Before I could ask another question, his head nodded and he was asleep, his chin on his chest, snoring, in the middle of a crowded diner at 9:30 in the morning. This wasn't a hangover. This was something else. I took him home. I was half carrying him up the walkway. My rage was back, and it was cold. She was waiting on the porch, arms crossed, the picture of calm. You really shouldn't have, she said, her voice dripping with fake concern. He's drugged, Clara. What did you give him? She laughed. A short, sharp, ugly sound. Drugged? Lena, look at him. He's drunk. You dragged your alcoholic father out of his house, and he couldn't even handle it. He said you gave him vitamins. Oh, for heaven's sake, she said, brushing past me, opening the door. He's confused. He's been drinking since you left. He's been distraught. He probably doesn't even remember this morning. You did this to him. You upset him. She was good. She was so good. She was twisting it. Making his fog my fault. Making his confusion his drinking. And the worst part? I was a nurse. I knew that chronic severe alcoholism could look like this. Wet brain, confusion, shakes. Was I wrong? Was she right? Was this just him? I let her take him inside. She was so strong, so efficient. She had him on the couch in a second, and she just looked at me. You should go, Lena. You've done enough damage. She closed the door in my face. Again. I was walking back to my car, my head spinning. Vitamins. Or vodka. Was I the crazy one? Lena! It was Mrs. Petrov, my neighbor. She was speed-walking across her lawn, holding a gardening trowel. She looked spooked. I saw you at the diner, she whispered, grabbing my arm. I was dropping my grandson at the school. Lena, I need to tell you something. I didn't want to get involved. I mean, she's his wife. But what, Mrs. Petrov? What is it? It's the stuff, Lena. She's been selling things. Selling what? His antiques. Your mother's antiques. The big silver mirror in the hall? The grandfather clock? I saw a truck here last week. I asked her about it. I said, Aunt Clara, honey, is Patrick redecorating? What did she say? She smiled at me, Lena, and she showed me a paper. She said, Patrick gave me his power of attorney. He wants me to clear out the old things and make room for the new. The power of attorney. The paper he signed. The simplification. It wasn't about love. It wasn't about loneliness. It was just a heist. Oh my God, I whispered. She's robbing him. I think so, honey. I think so. That night I was done. I was calling a lawyer. I was calling Adult Protective Services. I had proof. The POA, the missing antiques, the drugging. I was sitting on my couch, my phone in my hand, dialing the APS hotline. When my phone rang, it was my dad's number. My heart just stopped. Dad? Alina? It was him. But his voice, it was so slurred. I could barely understand him. It sounded like his mouth was full of cotton. Dad? Dad, what's wrong? Are you okay? She said. She said you wouldn't help. Dad, what did you take? Talk to me. Help. Me. Lena. And then, just a thud. The sound of the phone hitting the floor. And then, nothing. Just dead air. I was out the door in a second. I didn't knock. I didn't ring. I still had the key to the back door. The one from the kitchen. I prayed she hadn't changed that one. It turned. I burst into the kitchen. The house was dead quiet. Dad. I ran into the living room. He was on the floor. Unconscious. His face was pale. His breathing was shallow. Way too shallow. And Clara was just standing by the fireplace, looking at him. She wasn't crying. She wasn't panicking. She was just watching. She looked up at me, her face perfectly calm. And then I saw it. On the coffee table, right next to his hand, an empty pill bottle. My nurse brain read the label in a nanosecond. Oxycodone. His old prescription. From his hip surgery. A bottle that should have been empty. A bottle that should have been gone. Clara picked up her cell phone. I heard her dialing. 1? Yes, I need an ambulance. My husband, I think he tried to kill himself. He took too many pills. It was an accident. He was drinking and he was so depressed. I looked at the pill bottle. I looked at my unconscious father, and I looked at her, his wife, calmly, coolly, giving a perfect statement to 911. Accident? I whispered. This was no accident. This was her. The ambulance ride was a blur. No, that's a lie. It wasn't a blur. It was cold. It was the coldest, quietest, most focused 10 minutes of my life. Clara was in the front seat, crying. Real theatrical tears. She was already practicing her story for the ER docs. He was so depressed, I turned my back for 1 second. I was in the back. I was watching my father's oxygen saturation hover at 88%. I was bagging him. I wasn't his daughter. I was the nurse. I was the one keeping him alive, while the woman who tried to kill him sobbed in the front seat. When we hit the ER bay, I was out before the medics. Clara rushed to the desk. My husband, I walked right past her. I flashed my hospital ID at the charge nurse. I'm Lena Walsh, I said, and my voice, it didn't even shake. It was the voice I use in the OR. The no one argues with me voice. That's my father. His wife, his caregiver. She's been over-medicating him for weeks. This was not a suicide attempt. This was her. I want a full toxicology panel. I want it stat, and I want you to check for everything. Benzos, opiates, the works, and she is not to be left alone with him. The nurse looked at Clara, who was now playing the part of the hysterical, grieving wife. Then she looked at me, cold as ice, in my blood-spattered scrubs. She nodded. "We'll run everything." They got him stabilized. They moved him to the ICU. Clara was trying to argue. "I'm his wife. I have his healthcare POA. I have his—" "Your POA is fraudulent," I said, loud enough for the security guard to hear. "And you are a suspect." She just stopped, and she looked at me. And that look, oh, if she could have killed me with her eyes, I'd have been dead on the linoleum. The doctor found me 2 hours later. I was just sitting, staring at the wall. "You were right," he said, and he looked sick. "His blood alcohol is high, yes, but his system it's flooded. Diazepam, a lot of it. Valium, the little blue pills, the vitamins that made him so sleepy, so foggy, so manageable. She hadn't just given him the oxy tonight. She had been tenderizing him, softening him up for weeks, making him confused, making him reliant, making him the perfect muddled victim. I sat there. I waited. I waited until 4 a.m., when he finally started to stir. The drugs were wearing off. I was holding his hand. It felt like paper. His eyes fluttered open. He saw me, and he started to cry. Not loud, just these silent, weak, terrified tears. "Lena," he whispered. "I'm here, Dad. I'm right here. What happened?" He was so ashamed, so scared. She said. "You'd leave me," he mumbled. She said, "You were trying to put me away, that you hated me." She said, "If I didn't choose her, I'd die alone." My stomach just twisted. She'd used his deepest fear. "The pills, Dad. Tonight." His eyes squeezed shut. She brought them. With the whiskey, she said, "This will make the pain go away." She said, "It's time to rest." She watched me take them, Lena. She smiled. I didn't even flinch. My hand was already in my pocket. My phone was already on record. I'd been recording since he opened his eyes. I had her confession. I didn't just call the police. I called the detective I'd almost called earlier. I told him to meet me at the hospital. And while I waited, I made one more call. To my dad's pharmacy. "Joe, it's Lena Walsh. I need my dad's fill history. Now." Joe was back in 30 seconds. His voice was tight. "Lena, this is really bad. He has prescriptions for high-dose diazepam and oxycodone, refilled 3 times in the last month." "That's impossible," I said. "His doctor would never eat." "He didn't," Joe said. "The prescriptions weren't phoned in. They were e-scripted. Someone logged into his doctor's portal and sent them straight to us. Clara, the nurse. She would know exactly how to do it. Steal a password, log in as the doctor, order whatever she wanted. It wasn't just abuse. It was fraud. It was everything." The detective showed up just as Clara was marching back down the hall, her face a mask of righteous anger, ready to demand to see her poor, sick husband. She didn't even see the detective until he stepped right in front of her. "Clara Walsh?" She stopped. That calm, cool mask just froze. "Yes? I'm trying to see my husband." "Ma'am, you need to come with us." She saw me then, standing by the nurse's station. And for the very first time, the mask didn't just crack. It shattered. I saw the real her. It was just pure black simmering hate. "You," she hissed at me. "We have a toxicology report," the detective said, his voice flat. "We have a recorded statement from your husband. And we have a pharmacist who just confirmed you've been electronically forging prescriptions under your husband's name for months." Her face just collapsed. All the air went out of her, she knew. She knew the game was over. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just let them put her hands behind her back. I watched them walk her out, past the quiet zone signs, through the automatic doors, and into the flashing blue and red lights. The saint. The wife, the nurse, gone. It's amazing how fast a house can be emptied. How fast a life can be, packed up. After my dad was discharged, he never spent another night in that house. He couldn't. I couldn't. The whole place. It just felt dirty. Poisoned. So we sold it. We sold the house, the furniture, almost all of it. We got rid of the new brass nameplate. We threw out the ugly gold-framed wedding photo. And in a box in the attic, covered in dust, I found my mother's portrait. The months that followed were quiet. My dad moved into a new apartment. A smaller place with a lot of sunlight. He was ashamed. Oh God, he was so ashamed. For the first few weeks, he could barely look at me. He'd just sit by the window, twisting his hands. "Lena, I was so..." he'd start. I was just so stupid, and I'd just stop him. "I know, Dad, I know. You were lonely." She knew exactly what buttons to push. It took a lawyer, a very expensive lawyer, almost 6 months to untangle the mess, to get the marriage annulled on the grounds of fraud and manipulation, to void the power of attorney, to track down the antiques she'd sold. We got some of them back. And Clara? She never faced a jury. I quit my job at the hospital. I couldn't. I couldn't be that person anymore. The high stress, no mistakes or nurse. I'd seen what that kind of control had done to my dad, how it had pushed him right into her arms. I took a part-time job, a quiet one, working for an elder care advocacy group, answering phones, telling people what to look for. The little red flags, the isolation, the sudden new best friend, the mail going missing. I was at my new quiet desk, packing up for the day, when my phone rang. It was a number I knew by heart now. The district attorney's office. Lena, just wanted to let you know. She took the plea. I closed my eyes. I just let out this breath. This breath I felt like I'd been holding for a year. What did she get? Fraud, elder abuse, medication tampering, practicing medicine without a license. The list was long, the DA said. She took the deal. 10 years, Lena. 10 years in a state facility. She won't be eligible for parole for at least 10 years. It was over. It was really, truly over. I said thank you. I hung up the phone. I just sat there for a minute in the quiet. That night, I went over to my dad's apartment. I had a box with me. He opened the door, and he was smiling. A real, actual smile. He was leaning on his cane, but his eyes were clear. He wasn't drinking. Not since the hospital. He said he finally had a reason not to. What's in the box, kid? Just something, I said. I went to the big empty wall over his sofa. I put in a nail, and I unwrapped the painting, my mother. He just stared at it. His eyes welled up. She belongs here, he whispered. Yeah, Dad, I said, my throat thick. Yeah, she does. We just stood there for a minute, together, looking at her. He finally clapped his hands together. All right, he said, and his voice was his old voice, the one from before. I'm starving, and I'm buying. Ready to go, kid? I looked at him. My dad, not my patient. Not my problem, and I smiled. A real smile. Yeah, Dad, I said, grabbing my coat. It's over. Let's go home.